Railey. I'm an expert love educator and relationship coach. I now have a thriving business where I guide couples and individuals to teach them exactly how to create successful relationships. The reason that I became the world's first love educator was because the beginning of my life was very voidant of love. I have a story that takes me from being abandoned at birth to becoming a six-figure boss. So I was born into this wonderful world to a father that didn't want me. He abandoned me when I was an infant and left me to sleep in the snow. When my mother came home with me from the hospital, he told her that she no longer lived there and he didn't want anything to do with her or with me. He had already found a new partner and wanted to live his life with her. And so my mother and I didn't have anywhere to go. She asked my sisters, who were just a few years older, they were, 12 years older, so children at that time, to build us a tent in the backyard. And that's where we slept until my mother figured out plan B. This was the most unloving way to enter into existence.
Absolutely.
And it's a beautiful idea, honestly, now to think about how far I've come and to know that I've been born into the most unloving situation. And now I'm able to teach people exactly how to love and how to care, sort of making up for what I had lost as a child.
Which you could easily not go that direction. You could, I'm sure, I don't want to say like your story is unique or not unique, but I feel like most of the times when you hear of situations like that, the automatic outcome is that the person was like, okay, well, this is how I was treated when I came in the world. That's how I'm going to, continue to be in this world. So how, let's start with the reaction, because I feel like hearing that story when you're old enough, parents either don't share that with them, we tend to hide it from kids that, well, I don't know where your father is, or I don't know what happened to your mother, because we have this innate need to protect them. But you heard this story, not only heard the story, but you heard this chaotic and traumatic story for, like you said, how to enter the world. What was that like hearing that story though, for the first time?
Yeah. So I actually didn't hear this story until about 3 years ago.
Wow.
I always heard growing up that my father was a deadbeat. He was a horrible person. And as a child, you don't understand what that means. You just see it as, where is my dad? And I've always had that question of, where is my dad? And I'm sure he loves me somewhere. I'm sure he misses me. This is a child self-soothing.
Sure.
So I had no idea what he had done. And my mother found it very difficult to tell that story to me. There were even worse things that happened, or equally as bad things that happened, which were my father has 3 daughters outside of me and a son. And he abandoned them as well at one point in their lives. He left them as children to survive in a house completely alone without any parents for over a month. He didn't buy them food. He didn't take care of them. They simply were just in a house by themselves as children trying to survive.
Navigate.
So this is something that I didn't learn about until I turned 32. So it was something that I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was that bad.
Truth. And then, like you said, I mean, this is what you do now. What did it do for you when you realized like what that definition was for bad, for lack of a better term, and then realizing what you're doing with your life on top of it? What kind of thoughts, what kind of, stories went on in your head after that?
So along with that, so that was just the beginning. The story does continue to where I was with my mother and my stepfather, so the father of one of my sisters. And we lived in a house of horrors. There was a lot of abuse. There was a lot of neglect. My mother was in a financially abusive relationship. She didn't have the means, with 3 children of her own, to leave this very abusive man.
Yeah.
And so I knew that trauma firsthand as a young child. I did experience that, and I do remember those moments. So I don't remember the infancy, obviously, but I do remember being up until 12 years old in this very abusive environment.
Yeah.
So with that experience, there was a lot of trauma that came after that. So there was there was a lot of time between then and who I am now. And me being able to come out of that, for me, is a blessing. Honestly, I don't know exactly what it is within me, or, it's just statistics, but I was the one that got out, because I do have a lot of mental illness in my family, a lot of alcohol abuse, alcoholics, drug addicts. My family has suffered because of this continual generational trauma, generational abuse, generational poverty as well. So I was the one who was able to get away from this. So I was the one who was able to look at this and say, I don't want that. And I'm not sure where that came from and why that happened to me and didn't happen to some of other family members of mine. But I was able to see it sort of on the outside looking in, saying, this is unacceptable.
This is, Phew. And so knowing all that, like, your family history of, just the mental struggle there, do you find yourself in moments where you see those things kind of creeping in, like you said, like, the addiction and, the neglect and the abuse, like, do you find those things kind of creeping in and you have to, kind of realize it and stop and try extra hard to not have it creep in? Or is it just kind of, it's there, it's in your past and it's gone?
Yeah. So because of the environment that I grew up in, I suffered from anxiety and depression. I never had anything, those are severe, but I never had schizophrenia, for example, which some of my family members have. I've never had anything like that. But the anxiety and the depression were so extreme that I decided one day I was going to take my life. I decided that the suffering was too much for me to handle. This was after I left home at 16 and tried to make it in the world on my own. Yeah. And I said to myself, there's too much suffering going on. And I was able to get a house and a car. I was studying 2 degrees. I had 2 jobs. I was labeled as gifted when I was younger. I excelled greatly and very quickly in school. And leaving home at 16, you have the street smarts. So I was able to take care of myself. So on the outside, it looked like I had everything. But in the inside, I was absolutely miserable. I hated myself. I hated my life. I hated what had happened to me. I hated my father. I hated my mother. I just hated. And all that hate consumed me. Yeah. And so when I decided to go into a hotel room and decided that was the moment I was going to take my life, I actually looked myself in the mirror. And I said to myself, do I want to die or do I want the suffering to end? And in that moment, I realized, those are 2 different things. If I could create a life for myself that was connective and without suffering and purposeful and joyful, doing all the things that I wanted to do and experiencing life in a different way, actually, that's something I do want to be a part of. So it's not that I want to die. I just don't want to suffer anymore. Yeah. So I realized that I had the book smarts and the street smarts, and the other thing that was missing is called relationship intelligence. And this is the practice that I work with every day. It's the ability to have a positive and connective and thriving relationship with yourself and other people. That this is actually more important than any of the book smarts and the street smarts, because this is about our mindset and which fuels everything else that we do. So I have recovered from the anxiety, from the depression, but I always say that I have a sensitivity, that I have to wake up every morning and do my meditation. and do my yoga practice and journal and do, exercise and eat healthy and keep myself on this path,
Yeah.
because I have that. It's like the scars of trauma, and I'll always have scars. My husband, for example, he had a quote unquote normal, healthy upbringing, nothing too traumatic.
Right.
And so he can just, if he wanted to, he can just live his day the way that he wants, right? But for me, I have to make sure that I'm overriding those negative thoughts, that I'm constantly saying the right affirmations and watching my inner talk and watching my self-talk, to make sure that I stay in alignment with the positivity in my life, because the darkness can creep in sometimes. So I have to push myself in the other direction.
How often do you go back to that day looking in the mirror? And if you do, when you do, what does it do for you now at this point in your life versus, what you were feeling in that moment?
Yes. So with my work, I do a lot of features. So I've been on tons of podcasts. I've been in magazines, on blogs, radio stations, things like that. I say that I've built my business to 6 figures without spending money on ads. I do it by building relationships. And part of that is doing these different kind of media features and connecting with people. So I would say in an average week, I tell the story at least 4 or 5 times. So I revisit it every time I talk about it.
Sure, yeah.
Or I write a blog about it or something like that, or I send a pitch with a story in it. So I'm constantly talking about it. And the difference between now and then is that now it's like telling you a movie that I saw. I'm so disconnected to it emotionally.
Yeah.
Because I've healed from it so well, it's like telling you, because it's just a memory. A lot of times when we suffer because of things that happened in the past, the traumas that we have, is because we relive those moments. We put ourselves emotionally in the past. But with relationship intelligence, one of the things that we learn to do is to recognize mindfulness and recognize the beauty of living in the present, that I'm not that little girl who was being neglected. I'm not that teenager that was being abused. I'm here. I'm 35 years old. I'm living a wonderful life. And those things that happened to me, they were simply part of my story. That when it comes to suffering, we all suffer and we all feel pain. Some people in different ways than others. But when I think to myself, I was abused, I was neglected, well, this is just a part of life. And if it didn't happen to me, who else would I rather it have happened to? It just is. This is the experience that we have by coming into this world and saying, okay, we're willing to participate in this experiment, if we will, When we come into this world, we're just sort of handed a set of opportunities and a set of traumas and a set of this. And, our job is to make the best of it as we can. So now when I think about it, I'm so excited and I'm so happy that I was able to go through that journey and come out on the other side, living a thriving life and then teaching other people how to do that as well.
Do the same.
It's a moment of joy for me. It's a moment of pride to say, yes, you made the right decision. It's a moment of relief that I am 35. I'm not 9 years old. I do have my freedom and I am making good choices and I am taking care of myself and serving others.
Yeah. We talk about like grief all the time and different forms of it. And it kind of almost seems like, it's like you had the loss of it, again, whatever normal you want to define as a childhood, but, quote unquote, normal, introduction to the world, introduction to childhood and all those moments in your life that are so important as to what happens to you as an adult and how you form those relationships. And so often with grief, you find people that are just in the middle of it or, kind of along the path and they're kind of stuck on it. But it almost feels like, you were put on this path of grieving the loss of those moments of your life. But here you are, just as you said, on the other side of it, kind of recovered from that. What would you say is the best advice you've given yourself or advice you've heard along the way that's kind of move that process of grief along altogether?
Yes. So part of my journey was rewriting that tape in my head
Yeah.
because we have a lot of thoughts that come out of our emotions without critical thinking. So we think, I'm never going to be good enough. No one, for me, it was no one loved me. No one will ever love me. So we have to rewrite that tape. And
Yeah.
the way that I did that, because I didn't have parents that said positive, inspiring things to me, I didn't grow up in an environment where people encouraged me. So I didn't have that to pull from. So I had to find it. So I actually
Yeah.
started watching motivational videos and speeches from people like Tony Robbins and Les Brown. And I put their words in my head, because I just had the words of "you're not good enough, you'll never be anything,"
Yeah.
and I changed that tape literally by hearing people like Les Brown and Tony Robbins saying you can do whatever you want, and the world is yours, and all of these positive things. And I think one of the most impactful statements that I heard was, "What are you going to do about it?" And I ask myself that
That's
almost
simple, right?
every
Yeah.
day. What are you going
Yeah.
to do about it? Because in relationship intelligence, that's self-management. So
Yeah.
we have self-awareness. How do I feel? I feel frustrated. Okay, what are you going to do about it? Am I going to smoke a pack of cigarettes? Am I going to eat a tub of ice cream? Am I going to yell at someone? Am I going to throw things? Those are the things that I used to do. I used to be
Yeah.
a person who, when I got frustrated, the anxiety got so strong that I would throw things. It was the most liberating feeling in the world. Now I think they have like these places that you can go and you pay and then you
Yep.
can like,
You're absolutely right.
they didn't have that when I was younger. I should have went to those, but I would do it in my own house because that was the release that I had. But
And needed. Yeah.
not recognizing that that's a choice. That if we can take that moment to say, I'm feeling frustrated. How can I respond to this in a way that's going to benefit me? What am I going to
Yeah.
do about it? Because I can't control what other people do, what other people say. I can't control a pandemic. I can't control getting hit by a car, losing my job. These are problems, and problems are a part of life.
Yeah.
I say, get with the program. That again, once we say, I'm going to participate in life, we have to accept that problems are a part of life.
Yeah.
But the question is, what are you going to do about it? And so recognizing that I had a choice, and I always have a choice of how I respond to the things that happen to me. And I can choose to respond in a way that's going to benefit me or a way that's going to harm me. But that choice is there for me to make. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do about it? I ask myself that every single day.
And it's a great thing to talk about, because for me, whenever I hear, and even just, hearing clients, like, asking questions to me, it's like, we're innately, we want that quick fix. We want that, okay, how do I solve this now? But you make a great point that life happens and life's going to continue to happen, and you're constantly going to have those choices. So yes, some things may never arise again, but you don't know what that's going to be. And you have to kind of have that mentality of, okay, what am I going to do with this situation? How is it similar to the previous situations? And what have I learned from those? But you're not going to have okay, it's done. And that's only going to happen when life is over. Right. So you have to have those tools and those skills to be able to meet the day each time, whatever it brings, and learn from the fact that throwing a pot across the kitchen is not the best response at all. And now, for sure, what's the better choice? So I appreciate you saying that, and I thank you for sharing your story here.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's really important to understand that if you have the awareness to recognize that something can change, then it's your responsibility to take action. And for me, I was blessed with the gift of awareness. I knew when I was about 12 years old, something is wrong here. I've never really seen a thriving family, but I know that this isn't one. And so that gift of being able to be aware and recognize that things could be better, it was then my responsibility to take that action and to make my life something really beautiful.